davening in a minyan. The question arises in halacha. Is this a zchut, a merit that people have in order to daven in a minyan? Or is this a chova, a mitzvah midrabanan that people have to daven in a minyan? Okay, the difference between them is, let's say sometimes it clashes with other mitzvot derabanan. Which one takes precedence? Should we daven in a minyan because it's more important and it's a real mitzvah? Or if it's just a zchut and a merit, then we don't necessarily have to do that. And if there's other mitzvot derabanan that it clashes with, or helping out at home or things like that, then we shouldn't daven in a minyan. Instead, we should daven beichidut. The question also arises with regard to kavanah. We all know that mitzvot with regard to davening needs kavanah. And if someone is going to have more concentration when they're davening by themselves instead of davening with a minyan, maybe it pays to daven on their own without a minyan. So different poskim have different opinion on this. And in the Gemara, it doesn't seem 100% clear. There's a Gemara Masechet Brachot that Rabbi Eliezer goes over a seemingly avera, and he lets free his Knani slave, becoming a complete convert. He was like partially a convert before, but he was also responsible before him. And now he becomes not responsible for him anymore, and he lets him go and becomes a complete Jew like everybody else. In order to mashli minyan, there will only take 9 people for the minyan, and this way 10 people become now part of the minyan. And the Gemara says, how does Rabbi Eliezer do that? The answer the Gemara gives is because it's mitzvah shel rabim, meaning it's a mitzvah for many people, and therefore he did this because it was important enough. It wasn't just a personal mitzvah. On the other hand, we see different stories like of Nachman in the Gemara that was asked how come he didn't come to shul, and he said he wasn't really up to it. He wasn't really feeling so well. He wasn't ill, but he wasn't feeling so up to it. So then he was further asked, but how come he didn't at least, try to get a minyan to his home and daven in a minyan? And it's like, no, that's also it was a lot of tirhan. It was hard to do, so he didn't do that either. So it seems like it would be like a merit and a nice thing to do, but not necessarily a mitzvah that he would have to go out of his way in order to do it. So the poskim also have a different opinion on this. Even the Shulchan Aruch himself seems to say 2 different things. On one hand, the Shulchan Aruch paskins like Rashi and the Gemara with regard to the amount of distance you have to walk in order to daven in a minyan. The Gemara says you have to walk up to like 4 miles forward and a mile back from where you're going to just to daven in a minyan. But it might there be talking about netilat yadayim. It just says for davening, it's not so clear what it's talking about. Rashi understands that it's talking about davening in a minyan, and that's how the Shulchan Aruch paskins. So it seems like the Shulchan Aruch is saying it's an actual mitzvah that you have to go out of your way to do. On the other hand, when he talks about davening, he says, Le'olam yishtadel ha'adam litpalel bebet knesset im hatzibur, right? And he says that the tzibur, meaning you should try really hard to go and daven with the tzibur, which seems to be saying it's not really chovah, it's not really a mitzvah, you don't have to do it, but it's good for you to do it because you're going to be part of a group and Hashem listens to the tefillah b'tzibur. So there's also different opinions of poskim afterwards. The Chavat Yair and the Maharal say that it's a special thing to do, it's a good thing to do, but it doesn't outweigh a different derabanan. And if there's a different derabanan against it or outweighing it, you wouldn't go over a different derabanan, like maybe doing eruv tchumin. It's not that kind of mitzvah that you would do that. So that would take precedence, meaning the other mitzvahs would take precedence first. Whereas Moshe Feinstein says that actually it's a real mitzvah. And he explains that any tefillah, any kind of davening that you do in a place that is considered toivah, for instance, let's say you're in a place that's very smelly, you're in a place that you're not allowed to daven, and you weren't paying attention, and afterwards you realize that, you actually have to re-daven, because you're in a place next to a bathroom or things like that. You actually have to daven again, because zelo mitkabel, meaning that's not even considered real tefillah. Whereas from this, the Igorot Moshe of Moshe Feinstein understands that it means you actually have to daven in a minyan. You have to, because everybody knows that in a minyan, when there's at least 10 people there, it's considered a tzibur, and Kadosh Baruch Hu takes that tefillah. Whereas if it's yichidut, nobody knows. If you have enough concentration, you're not always going to be answered. And therefore, he learns that there's a chovah and a mitzvah to go to minyan. It seems that there might be 2 sides to this. It might be that there's a mitzvah lerabim, meaning we're all part of this greater picture, a larger picture of Am Yisrael. There's a mitzvah of rabim, that there should be minyanim, and that's how davening should be done. On the other hand, each person has their own personal mitzvah of concentration, and maybe that for each person it might be more of a merit. The Chavat Yair also explains that there's another mitzvah with regard to this that's separate, שזה ונקדשתי בתוך בני ישראל, sort of a kiddush Hashem. It's not necessarily the part of the minyan itself that's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is the fact that you could do kaddish and kedusha and things that you wouldn't be able to do if you davened on your own. Bringing women into this, even though we're not counted as part of the 10, we are part of the picture. We're part of the minyan. We're part of the public. We're part of the tzibur. We're part of the people there. And if we think of it, just the mass, just the amount of people there makes a big difference. Rov Am Hadrat Melech, and when we go to protests and people protest against things, just the fact that there's lots of people there makes a difference, even if they don't say anything. So for women also, being part of the minyan, going to shul, being a part of it is just as much as anybody else after those 10 people who are needed. Anybody else being part of that tzibur and coming to, men and women alike are in the same way. Therefore, it's very, very encouraged to be part of the mitzvah l'rabim. And even those who say that it's okay every once in a while not to go to a minyan because of some other mitzvah that it clashes with, it shouldn't be something bofen kavua, meaning it should be part of somebody's day that they wake up and they go to minyan, they're part of a tzibur, they're part of a kehillah, they're part of a community, and it strengthens that community, men and women alike.